So hello students, we begin with our lectures in science. As decided, we will take up the first topic in science, that is matter in our surroundings. Now students, let us understand what we will learn in this chapter, right? So you will cover up first the concept of matter. You will try to understand what matter is made up of. Then we will study the characteristics or properties of the particles of matter, right? We will also see how matter changes from one state to another state. Like matter, all of us know, exists in three states: the solid state, the liquid state, and the gaseous state. The plasma state is still under exploration, so we won't take up the plasma state, but we will study the three well-known states of matter, that is the solid state, the liquid state, and the gaseous state of matter, right? Then we will see how matter can change from one state to the other. Like for example, how can, let's say, a metal like copper change from the solid state to the liquid state? So it's a change in the state of matter. Then we will also take up a topic on evaporation. You know that when a liquid is continuously heated, it turns into a gaseous state at constant temperature, right? Like for example, when you're boiling water, water changes into water vapor. So that process is called as evaporation. So we learn about what is evaporation, how it takes place, and what are the factors that affect evaporation. So basically in this chapter we'll be covering up about all the physical properties of matter. Now, having understood what we are going to learn in this topic, we will go ahead now with our discussion on matter. See students, everything around us, right from a drop of water to a grain of sand, the plants, microscopic or macroscopic, which you can see the huge plants, the animals, the soil, the water, the mountains, the planets, the stars. Think of everything in your surrounding, the desk on which you are sitting, everything, the books that you are reading, everything consists or is made up of matter. So every perceivable thing or noticeable thing in matter, in your surrounding, even there are some things which you can't notice, microscopic, they are all made up of matter. Now we need to define matter in scientific terms. So how do you go about defining matter? Students, matter is defined as anything that occupies space. Even a small grain of sand occupies space. A drop of water, you put it on a table, it occupies space, right? So anything that occupies space and that has mass and volume is called as matter. I repeat once again, matter is defined as anything that has mass, volume, and that occupies space, right? So having now defined about matter, right, we'll go into the history of this. Students, right from ages, our ancestors and scientists of the years, many years ago, in their own, even ancient philosophers, in their own way, they try to explore as to what our surroundings are made up of. So having understood that our surroundings are made up of some type of matter or the other, they were inquisitive to know how or what this matter exactly consists of. In other words, our predecessors, ancestors, Indian philosophers and scientists abroad, they tried to explore the composition of matter. So ancient philosophers thought that matter was made up of 5 elements which they called as Pancha Tattva, that is the earth, air, water, fire and the sky. But then as days start going by, with the advance of, or with the availability of resources to study, with the development of knowledge over the years, scientists came to a very different conclusion. Scientists came to the conclusion that matter can be classified on the basis of 2 properties, their physical properties and their chemical properties. You will see ultimately how scientists came to the conclusion that matter is made up of very fine, tiny particles, whatever be matter, even if it's a crystal of sugar, a small grain of sand, they all contain thousands and millions of tiny particles within them. That was what matter came to be composed of, and matter was known to be composed of tiny particles. But these advancements in the composition of matter came to the knowledge of people at a much later stage. Then all of you know the current exploration has advanced now. We have a lot of details on the composition of matter. Like for example, we know that the smallest part of the human body or smallest part of living organisms is a cell, and of all other things you would talk of the smallest particles as being atoms or molecules, right? So in this chapter we will restrict our discussion to matter and its physical properties. So having understood, we have just understood what is matter. I repeat, matter is anything that occupies space, that has mass and that has volume, right? So in this chapter we will restrict ourselves to the physical aspects or physical properties of matter. In subsequent chapters you will learn what scientists also call as the chemical nature or properties of matter, right? So initially, students, there was a school, 2 schools of thought about the composition of matter. Some philosophers, ancient scientists thought that matter is continuous, like matter is continuous like a log of wood, or you look at air, it's continuous. One would never think that matter is made up of fine particles. So initially there were 2 schools of thought. One school of thought went with the idea that matter is continuous, a long extension. But there were others who felt no, that matter is not continuous. Matter is made up of extremely small particles which then cannot be further divided. So there were 2 schools of thought. One is matter is continuous, the other is matter is made up of extremely small indivisible particles later, right? Now as time passed, it was confirmed and people were convinced that ultimately matter is made up of extremely small particles. There are various activities mentioned in your textbooks to show you the various characteristics of matter, right? So all of us right now know that be it any type of matter, but matter is made up of extremely small particles, so much so that a crystal of salt or sugar, a crystal of potassium permanganate, a small grain of any matter would consist thousands and millions of small particles. There are some activities that are mentioned in your textbook where it is said that take a beaker containing 100 ml of water, okay, or take a 100 ml beaker and just fill it with half water. Take a 100 ml beaker, fill it with half water, mark the level of the water with a marker, right? then take around 2 spoons of sugar or salt and keep on stirring it till they finally disappear. They will, then after that you look at the level of the water, which was half, you had marked it. You will see that there is an increase in the level of the water after the sugar or salt what you have taken disappears or dissolves completely. So what this actually tells us, this activity tells you that those particles of sugar or salt have gone into the spaces of the particles of water, and therefore the level of the water has risen, right? So these are activities mentioned in your book to show you that matter does consist of very small particles, and these particles are extremely small and they have spaces between them. That is why the particles of another type of matter, that is sugar or salt, rushed into the spaces between the particles of water and thereby causing a rise in the level of water, right? So there are many such activities mentioned in your textbook. I would draw your attention to them as and when we study the characteristics of matter, right? So as of now we know that matter is something that occupies space. It has certain mass and volume. You know, mass is measured normally in kilograms. Volume could be measured in cubic meters or cubic centimeters. Normally for liquids, gases or fluids, they measure the volume in liters. We come to that later on, right? Then we know that matter is made up of extremely small particles. Now students, let us study one by one the characteristics of matter. The first characteristic of matter is that particles of matter have space between them. Like for example, we take a matter called water, right? So water has millions, let's say a 50 ml water has lot of particles, millions and millions of particles floating inside, and they all have spaces between them, right? So this is the first characteristic of matter, that matter has particles and there is a space that exists between all these particles of matter. So every type of matter is made up of small particles which ultimately have tiny spaces within each one of them. Now students, it will depend upon the state of the matter. Normally you will find that in solids the distance between the particles of matter are very less. They are very closely packed with each other. So in a, let's say a piece of iron, a block of iron, the various small particles of iron are very closely packed to each other. They are so this is the characteristic of particles in a solid. Whereas when you look at a liquid like water, the particles that the water is made up of are spread a little far apart from each other. And you take a gas, the particles of gaseous matters are still very far from each other. But the fact is that be it whatever state of matter, matter have small particles which have spaces in between them. That is why you saw the sugar or the salt particles mixing, going into the spaces between the particles of water and causing an increase in its volume. All right. Then the second characteristic of matter is that matter is, or the particles of matter are in a continuous state of motion, right? That means the particles of matter possess kinetic energy. All of you know what is kinetic energy. The energy possessed by a particle, a body or an object because of its motion is called kinetic energy. So since the particles of all types of matter, let it be a solid, a liquid, or a gaseous, or a plasma state matter, all these particles are in a state of constant motion. They are moving within those states of matter. So particles of matter are in a constant state of motion. Now one very important point is that as the temperature of any state of matter increases, let it be a solid, liquid, or a gas, but as the temperature of a state of matter increases, what happens is that the kinetic energy will keep on increasing. That means they will start vibrating about their position with greater speed and velocity. So the kinetic energy of these particles increases if the temperature increases, right? So the second point that we need to remember is that all particles of matter, be it whatever state of matter, they are in a continuous state of motion. They possess kinetic energy because they are in a continuous state of motion, and if their temperature increases, their kinetic energy or their motion will become faster and faster. Now there are some activities in your book, like take a beaker of water filled with water, half filled with water, full filled with water, whatever, right? You take a dropper and put ink in it and drop what you call is the ink from the dropper into that beaker, the water in the beaker. And the water is stationary, you don't have to shake the water at all. So you take a glass of water, right, or a beaker of water, put a drop of ink on it and leave it undisturbed. The water should be clear water. In another beaker, you can take honey and put a drop of honey in it, but leave it undisturbed. You take anything colored, you can view it very clearly. You can view the ongoings or what is happening very, very clearly. So when you leave it undisturbed for some time, you see the ink moving downwards in the water. Even the honey keeps on spreading downwards without being touched. So that means whether it is ink, whether it is the water particles, or whether the honey particles, they are in a continuous state of motion and they keep on mixing with each other, right? There was another activity in your textbook. You can read that activity. That activity tells you that you take 100 ml water in clear water in different beakers. So you take 5 or 6 beakers with 100 ml of water, right? In one beaker of 100 ml, right, what you do is you take potassium permanganate, right? You take 2 or 3 crystals of potassium permanganate and dissolve it in one beaker that is containing 100 ml of water. Stir it properly, you will see maybe it will attain the beaker, the solution in the beaker will attain a pink color solution. So in the first beaker, you have taken 100 ml of water and put only 2 or 3 crystals of potassium permanganate. By stirring, you see that the solution becomes dark pink. It's illustrated in your textbook. Then you take another 4 or 5 beakers, but they should be each containing 90 ml of water, not 100 as I mentioned before, right? So the remaining beakers will have 90 ml of water. Now in the second beaker, what you have to do is, from the first beaker you pick up 10 ml of the pink solution, right, in which the potassium permanganate 2 or 3 crystals were dissolved. So you pick up 10 ml and put it in the next beaker having 90 ml, right? So the 10 ml dissolves in the second beaker of clear water, that is 90 ml in volume, right? You will find that you stir it, you will find the solution becoming a bit dilute, right? But it will get a pink color. The color of the solution will fade from dark pink. The color will keep on fading as you put the solutions in the beakers that are ahead. So now that you have put the 10 ml of water from the first beaker, 10 ml of the colored water in which potassium permanganate had dissolved, you will find that the second beaker also gets a pink solution. It is obvious because there are small particles of potassium permanganate in it. Now from the second beaker, right, it is having 100 ml of pink solution. It was originally 90 ml clear water, then 10 ml the pink water from the first beaker, right? Now in the third beaker, what you have to do is, that beaker is also going to have 90 ml of clear water. Now from the second beaker, which is having a slightly lighter pink color solution, you take out 10 ml and put that 10 ml in the third beaker of clear water containing 90 ml of water. You will see there also the water, clear water, gets a pink color but slightly lighter than the second beaker, and you repeat this procedure 5 or 6 times, every time taking out the 10 ml of solution from the previous beaker and putting it to the next beaker containing clear water. You repeat it a number of times till you will find the beakers subsequently getting colored pink, although they may be lighter and lighter in color. What this activity actually tries to tell you is that 2 or 3 potassium permanganate crystals which colored the first beaker dark pink in color, they keep coloring the beaker right up to the end. That is because those particles have divided, or that those 2 or 3 crystals of potassium permanganate have divided into millions of small particles, and these particles keep on coloring the subsequent beaker. So that activity tells you that matter is made up of extremely small particles, right? Then particles are in a state of continuous motion is given by the activity showing the movement of ink and honey in the beakers of water, right? Then you can also see how the temperature affects the movement of the particles inside. You can dissolve, say, some crystals of sugar in cold water and some crystals of sugar in warm water. You will find that the crystals of sugar mix faster, or they diffuse faster in warm water than in cold water. That is because the kinetic energy of the particles in warm water is more, so the dissolution or diffusion of the sugar particles into the particles of water take place faster, because the kinetic energy in warm water is more than the kinetic energy of the particles in cold water. Now the intermixing of one type of particles, or the intermixing of particles of one type of matter with particles of another type of matter, like for example the intermixing of particles of ink or honey with the particles of water, is called as diffusion, and this takes place because of continuous motion of the particles of matter. The particles of maybe ink and honey are also in a continuous state of motion. So also the particles of water in the beakers are in continuous state of motion, and because of that there is an intermixing or a diffusion taking place of particles with one another, right? Then another thing, another very important characteristic of matter is that all particles of matter, there is a force of attraction between all particles of matter. Like for example, let us say we have a solid piece of copper. There are millions and millions of copper particles within that solid copper piece. So between the adjacent copper particles, there is a force of attraction, right? So the third characteristic I just now spoke to you about particles of matter is that there is a force of attraction between the adjacent particles of matter. Now normally the force of attraction between the adjacent particles in a solid is greater. Can you tell the reason why? The force of attraction between the adjacent particles in a solid is greater than the force of attraction between the adjacent particles in a liquid, and the force of attraction between the adjacent particles in a liquid is greater than the force of attraction between the adjacent particles in a gas. What it means that the force of attraction between adjacent particles in a solid state of matter is very high or great, and the force of attraction between the adjacent particles of matter, right, in a gas is the least. That is why you probably would have read in one of the activity that an incense stick, right? You keep an incense stick before burning it in one corner of the room. You may not get its scent or fragrance if you're sitting far away, right? But the moment you light that incense stick, the solid, whatever matter is there in that incense stick, gets converted into a gaseous state, and the atoms or molecules in that gaseous state, they spread throughout the room from one corner of the room to the other, because the distance between the particles of matter in the gaseous state is the greatest, and the force of attraction between the adjacent particles are very less. Since the force of attraction between adjacent particles are less, they spread out and they fill an entire area in which they are released, right? So an incense stick, small incense stick, burning in one corner of the room, you can get its fragrance in another corner of the room. That is because the particles, they spread out, and the distance between adjacent particles in a gaseous state are very large. So the force of attraction between the adjacent particles in a gaseous state is very, very less. I hope you got the point of the third characteristic. The third characteristic says that be it any state of matter, a solid, liquid, or a gaseous state of matter, there is a force of attraction between their particles. In solids, the force of attraction is the greatest. In gases, the force of attraction between the adjacent particles is the least, and this is related to the distance. Closer the particles are in a state of matter, greater will be the force of attraction, and greater is the distance between the particles in a particular state of matter, lesser will be the force of attraction, right? So today, students, we have covered up 1.1 and 1.2, right? In 1.1, I have given you clearly about what matter is composed of. So all of us learned what matter is composed of. We'll have a small revision on the board before we conclude our lecture. Then we also saw some characteristics of the particles of matter. So students, in order to understand the activities that I explained to you, you need to first, before listening to my lecture, I told you, you need to go through the topics and the activities so that you'll understand how they relate to the properties that are being explained. Like I told you, to show that particles of matter are in a state of motion, I gave you the example of putting a drop of ink in a beaker of water, right? So all these things, activities, they tell you of some particular characteristic or property of matter. You only have to relate them with one another, right? So let us go to and recapitulate on the board itself what we just now learned, and then we will conclude our lecture. So here we have what all we learned right now. Matter occupies space and has some mass and volume. Matter is made up of extremely small particles. Now the characteristics of the particles of matter are: particles of matter have space between them, and I also informed you that in different states of matter, what is the distance between the adjacent particles of matter. So particles of matter have space between them. In one state of matter it is less, in other states of matter it is more, depending on the state of matter, right? Then particles of matter are in a continuous state of motion, that is, they have kinetic energy. Their kinetic energy increases with an increase in temperature. Then the last point about the characteristic of particles of matter is that there exists a force of attraction between the particles of matter. This force is strong when the particles are near to each other. As the distance between the particles increases, the force of attraction between the adjacent particles of a particular state of matter keeps on decreasing. So these are the points which we covered up along with some of the activities that they have discussed in your book. So students, we conclude today's lecture with the discussion on composition of matter, right, and also the characteristics or the properties of the particles of matter, which comprises of the sections 1.1 and 1.2 in your textbook. While explaining, I related to the activities mentioned in these concepts, right? So you once again go through them after hearing my lecture and see that you get a grip on the concepts. Students, if there is any doubt, please get back to me. Please do not hesitate. You should treat your teacher as a friend, right? So get back to me in case you have any doubt, however small the doubt may be, however silly it may seem to you. No doubt is silly to a teacher, right? So however small or silly a doubt may be to you, please do not hesitate. Do not ask. If you don't want to ask in a group, you just ask it on my personal WhatsApp. Send me the question on the WhatsApp, or I will call you personally and clarify your doubts. So at any stage, your doubts should always be cleared so that the concepts explained further will become more and more clear to you, right? So don't leave any doubt in your mind. Students, I hope you enjoyed the lecture, and I wish that you take full advantage of the attempts made by us to see that you cover up as much as ground possible during these next few days. Till then, students, take care, all of you. Stay safe, stay happy, enjoy yourselves, and we'll see you during the next lecture. Okay, till then, students, bye and thank you.